Sacramento Kings dropped 2 straight. First to the Chicago Bulls in a game that they should have won, and in another game against a better team in the Milwaukee Bucks that they had all the way until the fourth quarter. When things got stagnant, things slowed down too much, and the Sacramento Kings ran out of time. In today's episode of the Bleav in Kings podcast, I'm going to talk about what is the biggest issue the Sacramento Kings have finishing the season. And I'm going to tell you what it is right now. It's time, because time is running out. I'm your host, Mark Haynes. Let's get to it. Last night, the Sacramento Kings lost the game to the Milwaukee Bucks, 114-108. It was a game that the Kings dominated for the most part in the first half. The second half, they did the exact opposite. The Milwaukee Bucks took over the game, and once the game got close, if you was at the arena, you felt it. You knew this was a game that the Kings wasn't going to be able to figure out how to, win. This was a game that they should have won. This was a game they played well up until the second quarter, specifically the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter, if you guys watched all the press conference interviews and everything, the fourth quarter is where things got really, really stagnant on the offensive end. Not a lot of ball movement, guys sitting in the corner, guys just out there to create space for DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. And what I mean by create space, I mean I could have did what some of those guys was doing, which is stand in the corner. They didn't have to move. They didn't have to, set screens and nothing. Just basically get out the way. And that wasn't good enough. The Milwaukee Bucks, a team who've been, this is a team that won a championship a couple of years ago. A team was without Damian Lillard. That's what else made this game another winnable game, even though they're still a good team without Dame. But they wasn't at full strength, and they played like it in the first half. They left the door open for the Sacramento Kings to shut it, and the Kings didn't. Obviously, the Sacramento Kings were shorthanded. No Domantas Sabonis, no Malik Monk, who was out due to an illness. But it was a game that maybe coming in, maybe some was like, this is a game that they're not going to win or whatever. The Bucks are better or whatever you may feel. But once the tip-off happened, it was all Sacramento. The first half was beautifully played basketball. The first half was dominated by Keon Ellis, which was unexpected. And I'll get into a little more of what I think about Keon Ellis and others and their role on this team or whatever. But Keon Ellis was amazing in that first half. He had 18 points in the first half. And I think he finished the game with, 20 maybe? 22 or something like that or whatever. I'm not looking at the stats right now. But it was a game where, Giannis, I think Giannis only had 9 in the first half or something like that, first half or through the first 3 quarters. No, it's first half because he went crazy in the third. First half had 9 points. He finished the game with over 30. And the Sacramento Kings just did not have an answer. They didn't have an answer for him. They didn't have an answer for, Brook Lopez, who he was the main guy that shout out to Brook Lopez from my hometown, friend of mine, Fresno, California. But Brook kept the Bucks in the game in the first half. I think he had 20 in the first half as well. If he don't have those 20 points, then maybe the gap is big enough to where the Kings can squeak by with a win. But he had it going. He was unstoppable in the first. He kept it rolling until Giannis took over, and once that happened, it was just that he took over. And the problem I see with the Sacramento Kings, obviously, we could talk about rotations. We could talk about the starting lineup. We could talk about a lot of different things or whatever. But the biggest issue, I think, with this team is unfixable. I don't think it's getting fixed this season. Now, when I say that, I don't mean that, oh, this team is bad. This team is going to, drop out of the top 10, even though they're definitely, it's possible if we're just keeping it being honest, it's possible. You know, Tomorrow they got the Boston Celtics. Tuesday. Yeah, that's back. Yeah, sure is back to back. I knew who they played, but I'm looking at the days. But yeah, back to back. You got Boston, then you got OKC. Then you got the Trailblazers, which is a game, again, it should be a business win. That should be a win they get, but it's also a team that's scrapping and trying to get in that 10th spot. So that's going to be a tough game. Then you got the Magics, Pacers, Wizards, Hornets. So you should get Wizards, Hornets for sure. There's 3 games for sure you should get. There's more, I'm not saying that they're not going to win more because there's other games that they can win, but these are ones these are non-negotiable. You have to get these. You have to get that game against the Wizards. You have to get that game against the Hornets. Um, and after that, everybody's a tough matchup. And what that tells me is we got 12 games for the rest of the season. And the problem with this team is time. And they're running out of time. They're running out of time. It's too late in the year, to not only be dealing with injuries. Injuries is something that you can't control. Sabonis going down, missing time, Malik Monk being sick, Zach LaVine missed the game due to personal issues or whatever. Those things happen. It's life. We're not robots. It's not a video game. Those things happen. But when you add that on top of you had a huge trade deadline during, you trade away De'Aaron Fox and Kevin Herter came back with the Bulls and destroyed the Kings. I think he had 25 points in his what he called a revenge game. But you trade away a bunch of guys, you fire your head coach, you got your interim head coach, Doug Christie, who's done a great job, but he's learning things. He's not learning things, but he's doing everything on the fly. Um, it's just tough. The season is ending. That's all happened in the second half. These are things that happen to coaches over years. These are things that happen in organizations over years. This all happened this year. And now you're dealing with injuries on top of trying to bring together a group that hasn't been together long at all. And now you're sitting at 500. You control the ninth spot at the moment, but you got 12 games left of the season to figure it out. And during these 12 games, you're going to be missing your star, Domantas Sabonis. I'm not sure when he comes back, but he's going to be out some games. He's already been out 3 or 4 or something like that. Who knows when is his timeline to come back? I would think Malik Monk would be back soon, probably in tomorrow's game. But like I said, you're dealing with that. You're dealing with rotations and you're dealing with responsibility issues because you don't have time to practice in the second half of the season. I think, maybe like they're getting into practice today. And this is a practice they need, but I'm pretty sure this isn't a practice that any of them want. You this late in the season, you're approaching a tough back to back. Granted that they're at home or whatever, but I'm pretty sure everybody would love to rest today and prepare for these 2 good teams that they have to face next week or this week because today is Sunday. Yeah, so technically this week. But this is where they're at. They have to do what they have to do, and now time is ticking. Do they have enough time to figure things out? Do they have enough time to figure rotations? That's going to be a really, really tough job for Doug Christie. It's a job he's signed up for. It's a job that he's attempting to do. But end of the day, we could talk about like, just my colleagues in media or whatever. I hear a lot of them talk about who should start, whether Zach Levine or DeMar DeRozan and Monk who should somebody has to come off the bench. And I have my ideas on what I would like for this team, but at the same time, you just haven't had the bodies, you just haven't had the time to figure it out. Now, is it too late? No, it's not too late because I actually still think the Sacramento team is a solid team. I still Bleav that this team can squeeze their way into the playoffs. Not go say I'm not saying they go get to 6. That's not what I'm saying. But I mean, through the play-in, I think this is a play-in team. I think they have enough to get out of that play-in. At most, it's only 2 games. We've seen the Sacramento Kings go on runs. And when it comes to playoffs and stuff like that, again, it's all about timing, peaking at the right time. So, yeah, you're sitting at 9 and 10. You dropped 6 of the last 8 games or whatever. None of that matters when it comes to the next 12 games. If you come out of this with a winning record, you're good. Now you can't go out there and lose, you know, 5, 6 straight and think you go get there because the Phoenix Suns and the Dallas Mavericks, they're coming. They're right there. So the Sacramento Kings, you know, I think regardless of who starts, I think what Doug is doing is going out there every night and putting together the best lineup possible, whether it makes sense as far as chemistry or not. Like some may say Malik Monk fits better off the bench, or Zach Levine, whatever the case may be. He's saying, I'm going out here, I'm gonna shoot my shot with my 5 best guys in the starting lineup, and we'll figure it out on the fly. And although people probably don't like that approach, I Bleav that's the only way to go with having this short of time to work with this team. Now, everybody wants to be in the playoffs. The goal is to make the playoffs. And this season, with all that's happened, I think if the Kings somehow make it into the first round of the playoffs, I think that's a huge win. I think it's a huge sign that says that they're going in the right direction. Not because, oh, last year they didn't make the playoffs and this year they did or whatever, but with all the stuff that happened throughout this season, trading away one of your franchise players, firing your head coach who basically put you guys in position to be successful for a few years. He's broke the playoff curse or whatever. Doing that, bringing in new starters, new everything, new coaches, losing your lead, one of your lead assistant coaches. There's a lot going on. There's a lot that happened this season that if the Kings somehow, and if they did make it to the playoffs, this is all on the strength of the players and Doug Christie, because they had to continue to try to win games, try to be competitive every night, regardless of what's going on around them. If they make it to the playoffs, I think it's a successful season. And then I think you have something to build on in the offseason. I think this year was definitely a setback. I think this year can also be a year that the Kings get some things accomplished that they needed to. And by making it somehow, some way, figuring out a way, shorthanded, limited time, figuring out a way to get into the first round, I think that'd be great for the fan base. I think that'd be great for the players' morale. And, even the front office. I think it should give them a better idea of what should be happening next season. And then I think that expectation that we had coming into this year, I think that expectation will be back next season. But these next 12 games are the most important games of the year. The Sacramento Kings have to close out the season strong, and they have a tough road ahead of them. Playing arguably the best team in the Eastern Conference or the NBA, followed by the second best team or the best team, their top three regardless. Facing two top three teams back to back, and then you're facing a, a ton of good teams. And out of the 12 games, what I said, 3 should be business wins. And those 3 games is going to keep the Sacramento Kings in the running for that top 10 because it's the NBA. You know, teams are going to lose. Phoenix are going to lose some games. I don't think it's going to be too many teams that do like the Warriors and just go like they like 17-3, something crazy or whatever. But nah, the Sacramento Kings are in a good position given what they've been handed all this season. And like I said, those business wins are very important. You can't lose those. They know it. And it's not rocket science. You got to get it. And that's what I think the biggest issue with this Sacramento Kings team is. It ain't the roster right now. It's not the roster. It's not the coaches. It's not the schemes. It's not the ball being stagnant in the fourth quarter. It's time. That's all it is. The Kings are running out of time. They didn't have a lot of time as is, but it's running out, and they have to figure out something quickly if they want to do anything outside of these next 12 games. Because if they don't reach the play-in, which is, kind of wild to think about at this point, but if they don't reach the play-in now, regardless of time or, having time or not having time, this was a failure of a season. And then after that, we'll start talking about who to blame and why was this season a failure. But I don't think that's happening. I think the Kings figure it out. I think Doug Christie figures out how to light a fire under these guys and get the job done. And at least, this is like when you're gambling, in Vegas. I don't know how many people, do blackjack or whatever, but you may put down, a couple $100 and lose it, then win it all back real quick. And it'll be smart to break even. Don't try to get greedy and get too much or, whatever, because you could lose it all again. The Sacramento Kings have to break even. And even if they break even in these next 12 games by going 6-6, I think that's enough to get them into the play-in and give them a fighting chance. But making the play-in to me is breaking even. Making the playoffs is a successful season. And I believe the Kings could do it. And it should be a very, very interesting and fun finish to the season. And this is the finish of the Bleav in Kings podcast. I'm your host, Mark Haynes. Sorry I've been missing for a while, but I'm going to give you a lot of content coming through with these last 12 games. Make sure you like, subscribe, share this podcast with any Sacramento Kings fans you know. But again, it's Mark Haynes. Happy Sunday, y'all. I'm out.